We tried out the style attribute in the previous lesson, but attributes aren't only for styles. They can also configure elements and adjust their behavior. For example, an A element, also known as an anchor element, is used for creating links to other web pages. Let's flip on over to Replit and try it out. On a new line, please make an anchor element with the text, "Totally not suspicious website." To do that, we'll need a left arrow, an A character, a right arrow, and it should be auto-completed at this point for us. If not, you'll have to add the closing tag yourself. Then inside of there, type "totally not suspicious website." If we now run this, we'll see in our preview window text appear on the screen, but it doesn't do anything when we click on it. However, if we configure the anchor element with an HREF attribute, it will become clickable and link us to another website. Let's try that now. Inside the opening tag, after the A character, add a space and then the word HREF, that is HREF, an equal sign, double quotes, because our values of our attributes always go in double quotes. Then type https://zombo.com. If we press the run button again, we'll see in the preview window that now our text is underlined and clickable. If we go ahead and right click and open in a new tab, we can see that the link takes us to Zombo.com. If you click on the speaker icon, you can listen to the website's audio. It's an excellent example of the use of an HTML audio element. If you're wondering what Zombo.com is, it's a joke from the early days of the internet. Feel free to Google the history of Zombo.com if you're curious. Okay, back to the lesson. Occasionally, some attributes don't need an equal sign or values after the equal sign. We call these attributes boolean attributes. They have an effect if they're included in the opening tag. In this example, a details element creates a toggleable menu by default, meaning that it can be opened or closed by clicking on it. Normally, it's closed by default when you visit the web page, but if you'd like it to be open by default, you can add the open attribute. We can tell that the open attribute is a boolean attribute because it doesn't have an equal sign or a value after it. Flip back over to Replit and let's try it out. Okay, beneath all the other elements on our first web page, please make a details element. That will be a left arrow, the word details, and a right arrow. At this point, it should be auto-completed for us, or you can write out the closing tag yourself. Inside the details element, write the text, "Your mother is a ... very nice person." Obviously. What did you think I was going to say? Whore? Never. We're all mature, reasonable people here, completely free of mental defects. After all, you wouldn't take a course made by an idiot, would you? Hit the run button. Now we have a menu that can toggle between open and closed. Try toggling it. Notice that it starts as closed, and it also says the word details by default. But we can change that by using a summary element. Let's add a summary element around the text, "Your mother is a ... Go ahead and create a left arrow, followed by the word summary, and a right arrow. It should auto-complete at this point, so you'll need to select the text, "Your mother is a ... and drag it inside of the summary element. Press the run button again, and we can see in our preview window that now, instead of the word details, "Your mother is a ... is our starting text, and when we click on the toggleable menu, it says that she is a very nice person. Let's try adding that boolean attribute to start the menu as open. Inside of our details element, please add a space, and then the attribute open. No equal sign, no double quotes, only the word open. Press the run button, and we should see that the menu now starts as open. However, it is still toggleable. Okay, since we just practiced Boolean attributes, let's take a minute to discuss the word Boolean. We're going to hear it a lot when we're learning to code. The word Boolean comes from a guy named George Boole. In the mid-1800s, he introduced the concept of Boolean algebra and logic. It's logic based on only two values, true and false, commonly written as 1 and 0. All modern computers are built on this Boolean logic. For the record, He did not name the mathematics after himself. Other people did that later on. We'll learn a little bit more about this logic in the next unit when we're learning JavaScript. Alright, back to HTML attributes. Occasionally, attributes are required. If you don't remember to add a required attribute, your web page is usually fine. Everything doesn't automatically break. Web browsers are pretty forgiving nowadays and will try and make everything work even if you forget attributes or closing tags, or if you put them in the wrong places. But chances are that by forgetting a required attribute, the element won't behave properly or like you were expecting. For example, an image element is a void element that requires an src attribute, usually pronounced source, and it is used to display an image on your web page. That source attribute needs a value that is either a web address of an image or a file path to an image on your personal computer. If you forget that attribute, the image element doesn't work. It won't show up on the web page at all. Similarly, the object element is used to embed a PDF or other types of media in a web page. It requires a data attribute and won't show up at all on the web page if you forget the attribute. If you ever need to check if an element requires any attributes, look on MDN. For example, say I forgot how the image element works. I'll type it into the search bar here, IMG. It should come up as first, second, or third in the search results, and we'll click on it. And now we have an example of exactly how to use the image element alongside its attributes. One question most people will have at this point is, does every attribute work on every element? No. There are some attributes that work on every element. They're called global attributes. We already tried out the style attribute, which is a global attribute, but the two other most common global attributes that we'll be using later on in this unit are the class attribute and the ID attribute, both of which we will use for styling. There's a bunch of other ones here that are rarely used, and you can safely ignore them for now so you don't get overwhelmed. Element-specific attributes are any attributes that aren't listed in our global attribute list. Examples of element-specific attributes are source, so src, the one that we just saw for the image element, alt, HREF, name, and content. There's a bunch more, and whenever you look up an element on MDN, it will list out any element-specific attributes that element can use. Finally, you can also make up your own attributes and put whatever data you want inside of them. They won't have any effect on the element, meaning that it won't change its behavior or default styles. But later on, we'll learn that we can access that data in the attributes with JavaScript and do whatever we want with that data. For example, we could write some JavaScript to find every element on the page with a custom attribute named question. Then we could delete those elements from the page, or duplicate them, or replace their current text with the value of that custom attribute. The sky's the limit. One last thing to note. If you use an element-specific attribute on the wrong element, it will have no effect. The paragraph element in this second example has an href attribute on it, but it doesn't actually link anywhere. We can prove that by trying it on Replit. Please make a new line on your first web page in Replit, and then add a paragraph element. Inside of it, you can add the text, "This is not a link," and then let's add an href attribute. So in the opening tag of our paragraph element, after the P, add a space, the word href, short for hypertext reference, an equal sign, double quotes, and then let's try linking to Zombocom again. https://zombo.com. If we hit the run button, we will see in the preview window that we now have text on the page saying this is not a link, but we click it and nothing happens. That's because the href attribute is an element-specific attribute that only works on our anchor tag and a few others. Alright, that's it for this lesson. If you have a few extra minutes, scroll through the list of all attributes on MDN. You don't have to try them out, but it wouldn't hurt to start getting familiar with them. Then head on over to the next lesson.